Well then, well, dungeon fog. What am I saying? Hmm? I usually saying, yeah. welcome to Mapping It Out, the behind the scenes of the wonderful product that you all love using. My name is Guy, and I'm going to be chatting with Till tonight about all those wonderful updates and things that you love to hear about, as well as we're going to be working on some maps whilst we're talking, and you are going to get to vote on what map we work on. So everything is in your hands. Now, as usual, please remember to put the word question in caps in front of your question so that I can see what's going on. Till, apparently I'm very quiet. Till's driving the show this time around because we wanted to improve the fidelity, the quality of the stream from a demonstration perspective. So hopefully he can jump onto that. And let's put him in the hot seat, actually. Till, why don't you join us? Because we're talking asset manager, we're talking new props, we're talking, well, just talking all sorts of things, and of course, a roadmap update. Till, join me in the studio.
Ta-da!
Yay!
Oh, that's weird. Pressing the button. Okay, I might be terribly loud. Give me a second to just see if we can adjust everything.
All right. Apparently it sounds like I'm in a conference hall. So there you are. Now, if you're wondering why is it that I am not beautifully cut out from my messy background of the studio, long story short, I broke it. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. It will be resolved by the next show, I promise. And it's not my fingers that are crossed. Okay, Till, we are talking about all kinds of things this evening, and we're going to hopefully be making the beginnings of a map, which I'm quite excited for as well. It's been quite a while since we've done that. Apparently, we're both echoing.
Yeah. I'm still like, that should be fixed now.
Let's have a look and see. There could be a bit of a delay. So there is that.
Yeah.
So keep your feedback coming. Echo fixed, says Ben Clayton. Thank you. Richard Potiet immediately jumps on saying request. Cyberpunk map showing a portal converting the city to a fantasy setting that is built on the bones of a giant monster. I've actually done one of those maps before.
Not scared. Yeah, that sounds fun.
I've done
Try me again.
Not on the bones of a giant monster, though. That's true. Not on the bones. Apparently, I'm echoing now. Till are you where? Am I in a speaker? I don't know. I don't know. We're getting there.
That's the best I can do for now.
All right. Hopefully, it's not terrible, folks.
Yes.
Hopefully, it's not terrible. If it is, let us know, and I'll just go away, and then Till can just run the stream.
So first of all, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Apologies. It's so as you might have noticed, we're experimenting with tech setup this year. Last mapping it out was on Discord stage. It was an experiment. We didn't like it a lot, so we decided no, we're not doing that anymore. Now we're going to YouTube, and also we've switched around. Last year, Guy was the one running the whole OBS setup and controlling everything, and we said to improve streaming quality, I'm going to run it from my end this year, so we don't have to send it through Zoom over OBS and have a lot of decompression artifacts in there, which means I am still trying to figure out everything here, and I am quite compared to Guy, which is fine. I can make myself a bit louder. That should work now. And that's where we are. So that's getting the tech stuff out of the way.
Yes.
You had a question? No?
No questions. No questions. Just requests for maps, which is lovely.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, let's park that cyberpunk idea. Let's just wait for a moment on that. Now, Till, let's jump straight into the news for the battlemap editor, shall we?
Yes, let's do this.
I think that's quite exciting. 14th of March is going to be an important date.
High date, by the way. I just Googled that date. we're finally there. It's happening. I'm super excited about it. On March the 14th, we will launch the asset manager. We wanted to launch a beta in around Christmas last year, but we've realized that there is still like a ton of tickets in our Git repository that we want to address first. So Andy and Lars spent January and February on addressing those, testing, fixing. There's quite a bit of let's say, hectic at the moment here in the office because we're trying to get everything ready and everything well polished until March the 14th. So but it's looking really good because we know we've already run our internal tests. Now it's on our internal servers. We're playing around with. We're going to look a little bit at it, not directly by looking at the asset manager, but by utilizing it to look at the assets that have been released. And so I'm super excited about this. This is going to be a really big thing because it is by far the most powerful asset management system that's out there, that's going to be out there, and it will allow you to not only get a better overview of all the assets that we have, but it's also giving you much more capabilities to organize your own assets, tag your own assets, sort them, and access them directly through the battlemap editor. So the idea for the asset manager is that it is going to become our central hub for asset management throughout all our tools. Currently, it's going to be plugged into the battlemap editor, but over the course of this year, we're going to plug it into DEIOS as well, and then you will be able to manage all your assets there.
Now, that was my very first question, is how are we going to get access to the asset? Do we have to download something, or we're going to have to go to a website to grab it? Where is it going to come from?
So as before, all the assets, like it's a central management system that gives you all the assets that are in our content subscription accessible through the asset manager. So whenever we create a new pack, it automatically gets added in there. And also when you upload assets, it gets your custom uploads will get loaded into there. And we're going to look at it in March, in our mapping it out in March, because then it will be released and then we can do a proper review of everything there. But it's also tied into the marketplace. So whenever you purchase or you're a Patreon follower to one of our marketplace artists, all those assets get in there. For DEIOS, it means that the assets that we're currently handing out through patches. So whenever we do an update to DEIOS, it's currently it might include some assets that are kind of hard baked into this update. This will change. It will then connect to the asset manager and pull all the assets that are available to you into DEIOS as well. Which means that you then finally will be able to actually also have access to your custom assets in DEIOS. Like if you don't want to use our own, you can use them through the asset manager.
Absolutely. I think everybody cannot wait. They cannot wait to be able to tag their assets and make their own collections.
Yeah. And also, I mean, this is like the first launch of it. And we have so many great ideas of what we can do. For example, having community tag collections where you can say, okay, look, if you take my tag collection and I share it around with you, you can have a pack sorted by your personal preferences and you can share them around. We're going to, I'm not sure, we hope we can achieve it this year, but we're aiming for bringing all your maps into there as well. So it is going to turn from just asset management into your central hub to manage everything that is map related, and at one point possibly also nodes related, right?
Right. Well, that was the question. Richard has just asked, will the tags feature from the asset management manager be used in ChatGPT for creating descriptions?
Oh, Richard, you're clever, and you're also right on track, because the thing is, once the asset manager has been launched, Andy is finally free. Our lead developer is finally free and can do something else. And the first thing he's going to touch will be the ChatGPT integration for battle maps, as well as the Sirenscape integration. We've been talking about that last year in our anniversary, but because the asset manager took more time, it got pushed back. So finally, I'm so much looking forward to do this. There is going to be notes creation through the map that you're drawing, and we're going to, first off, it's going to be a small step where you just create notes per room or per stage, and you can then put them into our note system. But eventually, it's going to be, hopefully, it's going to grow bigger and bigger, to the point where you probably, like ChatGPT does at the moment, just take a map and say, okay, create me a small adventure for this. And that's what we're aiming for.
Really cool. Peter White asks, will you be able to buy assets through the manager instead of subscriptions?
So the answer is yes. And as Damien has also answered in the chat, you can already, there is a marketplace on our website where you can purchase additional packs from Forgotten Adventures, from Chibbing Grove, from Planet Hoppers, Keora. I'm sorry if I forgot artists there, but there are quite a few artists on the marketplace where you can purchase additional assets. If you're a free user, that means you can just purchase them and use them. If you're a Patreon follower to those artists, we have a Patreon integration, which means if you're following, for example, Forgotten Adventures on Patreon, all their assets are automatically available to you. And if you have a content subscription with us, you also get a discount on the purchases on the marketplace. So there are quite a few benefits on using it either way.
Okay.
Oh, you're thinking more in the lines of DEIOS. Yes. So that is one of the big things why we want to have the asset manager being integrated, is because then we can open the marketplace for world map and city map artists like Rusty Maps or Daniel's Maps, and maybe, hopefully, who knows, even Devon Root, right? So the idea is that it is going to be for all the map types. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, speaking of all of the assets and managing them and that sort of thing, I look forward to the March show. But we've also got some new assets to play with. Let's give those a gander if you haven't already. Now,
yes.
When did they come out? They came out when did they come out?
They came out later than intended, but earlier than planned.
Okay.
Well, or something like this. So the thing was, we said we want to do a caves pack, and it should have been our January pack. But with the extended Christmas vacations and things starting slower than planned in January, it took Tony a bit longer to create the assets. And then he came back and said, well, but I can do so much more. Where I said, okay, in that case, let's not look at the release date. Let's look at what we can do to put them in a pack. And so instead of a 25 to 30 assets regular pack, it became a 90 assets mega pack that was released mid-February. I can't remember exactly when, but we handed it out mid-February, and there is still going to be, also delayed a bit, but there is a February pack coming that will be released in the first week of March, and then we are hopefully kind of back into our regular schedule.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but any hints as to what that map pack might be coming out in early March?
Well, let's say it's going to be a bit fishy.
Oh, interesting. Now, this is the assets from the cave, which I absolutely love. that Spider Queen statue looking up is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
90 assets. What are some of the things that we've got in there? What came through? Because caves, we've already had some
Yes.
cave work. We've had mines.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a lot of underground stuff already. What have you guys added in?
Mines was actually I think it was the second pack
That's right.
that we released.
Came out really early.
Really early. So when we went back, like last year, we did a fantasy rework. And we said, okay, what else do we need to rework? And we've been looking at mines, and we said, okay, maybe we should be looking at something that's a bit more, less cavey cave and more underdark. So with a lot more biomes in there to do. But let's have a look at those assets. And for that, I quickly need to switch here, because this is actually now in the current asset manager. This is how the asset manager is going to look like. And I've already sorted them. You can kind of sort your assets, and I've already sorted them by asset type so that it's easier for us to see. So there are 3 new paths in there. One that is actually really surprisingly good. We just did a cave cliff, and we said, okay, what are we going to do with that? And we're going to see the ingenuity in the
ingenuity.
Thank you very much, of our community, because I think it only took a week, and someone came up with a better idea on how to use that prop. We have quite a nice cave river that is winding through stony, rocky river segments. And we have webbings, a lot of more and different and varied webbings that you can use to decorate maps. We're going to see them in a sample. And then we have 77 props that are, of course, ranging from gory to bloody caves, bones. Then we have a lot of hive stuff, because I think that might be really nice to have. Of course, every Underdark cave needs mushrooms, so there's a bunch of mushrooms in there, as well as all the different types of rocks that you might want to use to kind of clutter and decorate and create terrains in your caves. So also even with moss covered. And what's a good cave without some sacrificing holes in there? So there are some different types of holes. Altars, a shrubbery, a spider hole. Yes. The statues in regular and broken states. Then even more webs that you can just place as props. Spiders that you can put on the webs. Spores that can be flying around the fungi. Terrain cliffs, water holes, 2 different types of water holes. And of course, cocoons that might create nice spider effects. And then we also used like the whole environment to create textures, like cracked cave, then mossy.
Can you scroll up some more, Till?
No, apologies. I think I don't can. I cannot. I don't can. I've lost my English. Maybe I can do it something like.
Maybe
this.
There we go. Yeah, we can see a little bit of the textures at the bottom.
Yeah. Now there you go. So let me just move it up a bit here. So this is like there's red moss, there's green moss, there are different plain rocks. Then weird goo. Purple and
you gotta have weird goo.
Yeah,
it's required.
And of course, fitting water if you want to merge it nicely with the existing water assets that we have there, right? So that's this pack, and I think it's I really enjoyed it. I've already used it in some of my own maps for my games, but I have also seen.
Yes, someone has submitted.
Yeah, I've also seen what the community is doing with it, And from Discord, I grabbed a conversation that absolutely instantly blew my mind, and that is by the Discord user T dot dot dot, which is not me, although I'm Till, but that is someone else. And he showed us what he did with the cave cliffs, like with the cliff path I showed. He actually used it to create those really interesting perspective-like broken floors that go down into the endless depths of whatever that dungeon might hold. And it is, I loved it. I saw the image and I was like,
Looks
oh
really
yeah,
good.
I'm going to use that. And then I think the day after we published the pack, our super map maker at the moment, dishing out maps every week, Johnny, did the Dark Spider Cave using a lot of the new assets, also with a very interesting lighting theme. So those are just two examples of what you can do with it, and I think they're brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. All right. Well, we might be building a cave tonight. That depends on you.
So if you want to see those assets in action, again, there's going to be a vote.
Yeah.
We can, of course, also do a cave map in the battlemap editor and see how you can combine cave rooms with those paths and decorate them with props and use brush techniques. So we can have a look at that.
Lovely. But before we get there, we have to talk about DEIOS.
Yeah, which, by the way, I saw that, Richard, and I absolutely agree.
I don't know what you're talking about, and since I'm the one who's in charge of commentary, we're just going to move on. No one is doing any music transitions, but we don't have any transitions. They're all removed.
Oh, right, I forgot to do the transitions.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
that's right.
next
What a
time.
pity. What a pity.
Next time. I will. That's a reason to bring them back.
All right, 6.3.
6.3 is live. Yes. Exactly. And I think 6.3 was so we're in the process of city map cleanup. Which means there have been a few tools that we wanted to introduce and look at, and there's a lot of just cleaning up UI, improving things, making things better. So 6.3 was bringing in one tool that we always wanted to do, that is now in a decent state so that you can play around with it, which is, we're going to look at it, which is terrain elevation. But that's not everything that was in 6.3.
Just ignore the chat at the moment. I'm just ignoring the chat. Just keep going.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So with 0.6.3, we've introduced terrain elevation, which you can clearly see here. So you can use tools to add this kind of elevated depth to it. But we also did a couple of other things. So you can see that we have introduced those water shaders, so you can use now the water shaders in there. We've introduced we still, and I'm very proud of the way how Ilya and Andre are looking at the editor and are proposing ideas on how to improve the visuals of being a hand-drawn map. So they have also introduced what's called a grain filter that you can apply now to create. It's really hard to show here. We might be seeing it if we're doing a city map tonight. I can show it by zooming in a little bit, but there is a grain effect that is rendered on top of everything, which makes the brush transitions more grisly and more artsy in its behavior. I think it looks really good. There were some improvements to lighting, and if I remember correctly, well, let's see, I have... Oh, yeah, and of course, there was
the big filter.
The big filter. There was the artwork filter that is now implemented, which allows you to turn your map into an old school kind of ink-drawn map, which we can look at as well.
I have to say, I used this on a map that I made for my players, just literally for a live game that they played the other day. And I made the map as big as possible, and then I printed it out onto 12 A4 pages. That's the standard American letter size, and then glued it together. So I printed out each little section on my stupid little printer, my home printer, glued it together, and gave them this giant city map. They were blown away by it. I think they probably spent about 10 minutes deciding which house was theirs. And debating, well, if we're this far away, this is where the blacksmith is, this is where the gate is. It's absolutely awesome. So really, really cool. Richard's jumping into the question already. Till modern and cyberpunk. I'm guessing, Richard, there's lots of cyberpunk and modern games in your world. That's amazing. That's awesome. I love those games. Are we looking at modern streets and sidewalks textures in the future rather than cobblestone and asphalt?
Yes. So one thing we noticed around the end of the year when we did our reviews, when we analyzed what did we achieve, what did we not achieve, where are we at the moment. One thing we realized is with all the experimentation on city map making, we kind of went a little bit all over the place when it came down to textures, to brushes, to building art styles and stuff like that. So we decided that this year we're going to work with an art director who's kind of professional in the space of doing color palettes and color themes and style unification. And they're going to be like internally, we're going to produce a few like mood boards and style boards that will define the style of all future assets that we produce, right? Because we want to, as we do with the battlemap editor, we want to have a content subscription where you constantly get new assets produced from our side. But to do that, we feel like first thing we need to do is we need to get a streamlined style guide for those assets, and that's in the process at the moment. And I hope that by probably end of March, maybe end of April, we will be ready with that. And then we will be looking at artists who can help us based on that style guide to actually create all the different settings. I think because it's exciting, we might be doing something like a modern pack pretty early on because we want to see how the difference is. I do know, based on feedback that I've got from you, Guy, but from you, from the community as well, is that the amount of buildings that we have is rather slim at the moment, and they could be broken down into broader categories like residential buildings or administrative buildings or poor buildings or things like that. Not so much like species or racial based buildings yet, although we've been already thinking about elves and orcs and dwarves and what you could do with those. So we're going to, same as with the early stages of the content subscription with Dungeon Fog, we're just going to jump all over the place. One asset pack will be cyberpunk, one asset pack will be orcs. The next one will be medieval residential areas, and the next one will be another one. And so that's the goal. But we're going to slowly but steadily progress into that space where we can actually produce asset packs on a constant basis.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's have a look at the roadmap. You've got a roadmap for us to look at. So let's see where we are. You might want to hide me.
I'm going to hide you for a second so that people can see stuff. So the latest release, we've already talked about it here. You can see it in listing. It's the elevation tool. It's the global lighting with the water shading effects. It's post effects, outline and grain. And we've also introduced a feature that is going to be unified all over the place. So for the battlemap editor, it's going to come as well, which is a way to, while you're working on a map, to quickly save it as a copy. Instead of having to go out, duplicate, go back in, you can now just go on the save button and decide whether or not you want to save the current version or you want to save it as a copy. The shadow casting has been, like the rendering on the shadow casting and on the terrain shadows has been improved. And also we've went down into the prop specific, where you can now select the prop and decide whether or not this prop is going to cast the shadow, which is, I would say, a bit of an early stage solution of where we want to go, because of course, in the long run, we want to be where we are with the battlemap editor, where you can also define let's call it the height of the building, or in other words, the shadow length. Right now it's just a flip switch, turn on, turn off. But eventually, once we've kind of internally decided on how we want to approach it, there's going to be more options to that. For the upcoming patch, which is going to be, if like knock on wood, if everything goes as planned, is going to be next week. We are doing the first iteration of mainly UI cleanup, because we're aware of the fact that with all the tools that we've handed out and the filters and the lighting effects and all that stuff, the UI is getting really cluttered. And although some of you might enjoy the view of hundreds of sliders screaming at you, I do not. And I feel like it would be much easier if you had a kind of cleaned up UI that you can control much more easy. So there's going to be tool cleanup. We're going to reduce UI complexity. There's of course bug fixing. It's not going to be layers and groupings in the next patch. It's just upcoming, because we know that we want to do a layer system and we want to do a prop or asset grouping system. And we're going to start with prototyping internally next week. But we're not going, like, from the concepts we have, this is going to be a big one, and it's going to take us a couple of weeks or even months to do it. But there's going to be a layer system, and if we can do kind of mid steps, we're going to hand them out to you the soon we're happy with them. And the rest of it is basically in our 2024 goals, which is the city map fine tuning. We intended to have the city map fine tuning finished by the end of Q1. The end of Q1 is rushing towards us, so it might bleed a bit into April before we're done with city map fine tuning, and then we will be back on world map refinements, which some of you might be already very excited for. I know, I'm looking at you, Damien. Also include then biomes.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of questions that have come through, Till.
Yes.
Any update on the progress to have the ability to randomly generate street layouts in the City Map Maker? It's quite a tricky question, isn't it? Because having worked on my city for a while, yes, it would be nice to have little roads spawning off, but at the same time, you kind of go, yes, but I want them to spawn when I want them specifically to spawn.
So the reason I was smiling was because it's quite the topic internally at the moment. I am the one who's standing on the brake for this, because I said, look, we're handing out tool after tool after tool, but we're not cleaning them up properly. Do we want to do another tool that might be, and I mean, we're calling this a district tool, right? Where you have a super brush, I think Ilya called it a super brush, where you have a super brush, and when you apply to a region, roads, buildings, and all that stuff are generated. Now, from a developer standpoint, that might be a quick thing that you can easily do in a couple of, probably a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to have that tool. But then you always have the whole kind of rat's tail of cleaning up, improving, bug fixing, stability. So if we want to do this, and we want to add this, it's going to push back. We have 2 developers working on it, right? It's going to push back our layers development. It's going to push back the UI cleanup. It's going to push back the time where we are satisfied with the city map editor and we can actually switch into world map editing. Now, personally, I would love to have that super brush. I think that would be amazing. I'm just worried that it is eating too much time, and that it might be easier for us to say, okay, let's do world map cleanup, city map cleanup. Then let's look at how complicated is the whole world map stuff, because what we want to do is we want to take as much learning from the city map development and bring it back into world map development. And then once we're getting a bit more free air, then we can look at such super features. Now, internally, that opinion is not highly liked. I'm being like, people are working on me every day and like, but the super brush, but look what we could do. So there might be a kind of a mid-tier decision where I say, okay, you know what? Let's do cleanup. Let's start with a prototype on layers so that we can get a better understanding of how much work the layers actually are. And then let's do a prototype with that brush and see how it goes. So there's a good chance that I will be convinced eventually, especially if, and my devs know that, if they come to me with a prototype and that looks nice, I'm almost certainly sold on it. So that's the state of it.
I guess the challenge is not knowing how long the world map version 2 update is going to be, because that's an unknown at the moment. So anyway, that's all good. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up what everyone was thinking for this week, this month's show, I should say. Except now we get to build a map.
Exactly. It's time to build a map. And
so, do you know how to do a poll in YouTube chat?
No, I have no idea. I can do a poll in YouTube.
Yes, if you go into the YouTube chat, you'll see there's an option underneath the chat, which is a little plus sign, and you can run a poll. And then you can type in the topic of the poll, and then everyone can vote on what we should be doing.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to switch us back to this, because then I have this screen to actually go to YouTube.
Great. Yes.
And see if I can make this magic work.
If I can make it work, you can make it work.
Live.
So you click on plus and you click on poll, and
there's a plus. There's a poll.
Yes.
The question is going to be, what map should we create? And the answer is not yes and no. The answer is
Richard is definitely on the city built on the bones of a monster. You're like, okay, all right, that's an interesting one. So once you launch the poll, it will be available in the YouTube chat. You will have to go into YouTube chat if you are just listening, or if you are watching on your phone. I know sometimes it can be a challenge, but click on the option that you would like to make and it will be added. So we can see the votes coming in now, thick and fast. Usually we wait until we have at least 50% of the viewers watching. And just a reminder, if you are watching the show and you are finding the information useful or helpful, hit that like button. It will just help to improve the algorithms and get people watching. So 8 votes in, we just need 1 more, and there it is. So Till, you can end that vote at any time. I think the audience is a little bit biased, however, wanting such silly things as music transitions and city maps. No, it's absolutely wonderful.
Oh, right. That well, we'll keep that vote.
Yeah, we'll
Do we
forget
want
about
to?
that one.
How do I phrase it? Do we want to hear guys singing
No,
music?
no, you really do not. You really do not.
Okay, but it's
Right.
fairly obvious. We have 11
Yes.
votes, and people want to see city map
Correct.
stuff.
So if you end the vote, it
I
will
have
post the
already.
results up officially. And so we are city map making. So that limits us in terms of doing a city on bones of monster for now. But there are a few things that I think are really worth looking at if you haven't really been playing around with City Map Maker yet. I've got some questions which I'd love to see Till start to fulfill.
Let me switch back into my demo screen and let's bring back Guy. I hope that works. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Here you are.
Okay. So Till.
Yes.
When I was creating my city map, there was a little hack. Not really a hack, just more of a suggestion that you made. In terms of the scale, because I found scaling the buildings to be quite frustrating. But that was because I was actually using the wrong settings. So what setting, if I was to say, let's make a standard sized town of a population of
That's actually what we did here.
1 in 5,000 people, what should I be using in terms of scales and things when I'm first creating that map? I know you've already created one, but what would you suggest?
Well, we can just recreate. We can start from scratch. So when I create a new map, let's call this Fab Demo. And you say it's a city map. If I know it's like, the idea should be that those are giving you a good indication of how wide the area is, right? If you have a metropolis, the area is, I know that we're lacking units here at the moment. There's a reason for that, because we have to work on our unit calculation system a bit. But we can assume that this is probably somewhere in around meters. Let's pretend that those are meters, because if you look at the city of Vienna, which obviously is not a metropolis, but is from our Austrian perspective a big one, then the diameter would be around 10 kilometers, right? So 2,000 kilometers, if you think of a fantasy metropolis, might
2,000 meters.
2,000 meters, 2 kilometers, is probably a bit too small. So we're going to eventually scale this up. But for example, this, let me just show you. This map is actually a metropolis-sized map. And when you go in, that is quite a lot going on there. So that would actually be kind of a metropolis-style map. So right now, I would not so much pay attention to the to those, because we're going to adjust them, but just to the concept of what's the area size that I need. If it's going to be a wide one, go for metropolis. If it's going to be a smaller one, pick between city or town. If it's just a few buildings, like medieval road stop somewhere, then you can go for village.
Well, we've had a request. We've had a few requests, as a matter of fact, but this one was worded so nicely and seconded. Build a city on a side of a mountain where buildings are placed at different heights as well as scale, and having the terrain reflect the hillside. Since we've now got the whole idea of elevation added in the latest patch, let's do that.
Yes, let's do that. Okay.
Cliffside town.
A cliffside town. I'm still picking city for it, just to be on the safe side. And we're going to do that. So the first thing that we need to do at the moment is we need to create a landmass for it. I am aware of the fact that this is quite redundant, so we're going to offer something like a fill stage or whatever here. But right now you just take the landmass tool and just fill it up, right?
Right. Now, whilst you are busy prepping and setting up, I would love for chat to start thinking about names for this city. What is this city going to be called that is on the side of a cliff face? Think of a name. You can't use something like Minas Tirith. It's already been taken. So, Till, when you are building anything on the side of a cliff, where do you start?
Well, I start with the terrain always because that makes life so much easier. So I'm going to now I have green pastries, right? So just green meadows. We don't know where what happens, but I've set it up and I go with terrain. If I get it right, the idea is a bit like Minas Tirith, right? It's going to be like it's
on a cliff
terrace.
side.
It's a terrace city built on cliffs, right? That's the concept behind it. So I personally would say, okay, wait, every city is built around the major necessities that a city has, which means a river should be somewhere nearby, and we can also use. We can also.
I thought major. Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
We can also use the river to create some interesting terrain choices there.
Lovely.
So I'm going to create a
Do
river.
you remember the city of Naboo? Well, the city on Naboo, not the city of Naboo from Phantom Menace. That was built on the cliffside, and the hangars were actually built into the cliff. So not exactly Minas Tirith, but still cliffside. So half of the map would be one half of the cliff, the other half would be the other. We don't have to go crazy. Anyway,
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you. Okay, in that case, let's try that. So in that case, let's still do the terrain first.
Yes.
And let's say that this is our. So the next thing I would do is just for the sake of referencing sizes. I'll just pick a building. Let's say this one. This is a small building, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to place it somewhere. This just helps me to understand relations at the moment. Eventually, once we have a grid that kind of is, and we have a unified measurement system, we would know that this building is probably not 40 meters or whatever it currently, you're not seeing it at the bottom. That building is probably not 20 meters.
20 meters.
But it's probably just like a third of it. So right now I'm saying, okay, this is a small building, and this helps me to identify what would be a big river. If that is a small building, then that is not a big river, but probably that would be a big river, right?
Right.
So I can go now and I can say, okay, let's do my river here.
The request is that the river empties into a small port.
Okay, so the river now empties into a small port. Let's do this here. So we have some space here for the small port. However, what you suggested was that we now probably go to our cliffs here, and let's use them. No, let's use them. I like them better. And for the sake of just getting my bearings, the idea is that we have, let's make this, let's say 50. I'm not sure. I'll have to play around with it. Okay, so that's probably still not big enough. Let's make 100.
Will you be able to change the map size after creating it?
It's on our to-do list. You can't do it at the moment, but we have had several reports and requests on Discord about that, and it is already in our ticket system. It's on the list of things to do. We're also going to need it for the city map for the world map maker.
Yeah.
So it's going
Shouldn't
to be...
the river flow over the cliff?
Maybe. But since we don't have waterfalls yet, it's not going to be. It's going to be at the bottom.
You do have brush tools. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we can. Okay, let's try that at the end.
But just remember, the idea was to show different heights within the city. So I think the cliff is too close to the wall, or are you going to add more?
No. That's like the. So what I'm doing is that's the top cliff, right? So there's going to be another terrace here, maybe something like this, which is a bit lower than the previous one. So that's why I made it smaller. I do think, however, that it is too small already. So I think 50 is not good. Let's try 80 here. Like this, right? And now we're going down. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So we went from 60, let's see. Okay. And for the last one, we go down to 40, and that one is going to snap to the coast. And it's going to be something like this. So when we look closer now, we can see that we have those terrain, like those terraces. And I hope I'm doing this. Yes, that's correct.
So a wonderful comment that's just been made is that what you are currently doing, Till, is taking part in the very first city map battle madness.
Oh no, that's true.
Although we're not doing a 3-hour stream, you do now have to add in some pirates, Till.
Yarr! That we can do. And before I forget, we're going to do that right now.
All right, there we go. You see,
pirates. There you go. Oh, not on stream. Okay, so come on, pirates. Here you are.
All right, there we go. You've added in pirates. Well done. Your next challenge is in 20 minutes. Although we're compressing the stream down, so your next challenge is in 5 minutes.
In 3 minutes. Yes.
So you're creating these different layers of terrain.
Yeah.
I think it's already starting to look very good. How are you going to, or are you going to do anything to the actual texture?
Yes, of course.
The green.
And to be completely honest, oh, that one is looking into the wrong direction. I am still undecided. Come on, friend. There you go. So my first instinct would be to say, okay, we're now taking the darker grass, and we're going, let's say that the brush radius is, let's try it with 80. Well, that's still too much. Let's try it with 40. That's good. Opacity. So my first instinct would be to do this.
Darker the lower down you go.
Yes, exactly. To go darker the lower down you go. Because now I could go with opacity.
I just remember to do it to the other side as well, so you've got consistency. Don't you want to do the other side at the same time?
Yeah.
100% opacity.
Thank you. Because then I'm faster if I do it on both sides. And I would have actually been faster if I turned it around, but that's fine. Learning by doing. If I went top to bottom,
it would naturally
stack up. Yeah, exactly. So now I have to increase the set index, otherwise we're going to get a problem. And make this 80, and hopefully that's working.
Is that something that you're going to be looking at in terms of layering and grouping? Because that's
the problem. Because right now this is more like a concept.
Mm.
The second my two brushes touch, they're now both at 101
Mm.
in terms of set indexing. I'll have to think about how we can fix that in our map here. Once we
Well,
have the
what you
proper
could
layer
do,
system, it's going to be fine though.
yes, what you could do is just have 3 bands. So your lower band is your dark color, then the
Yeah,
fixed color is the second band, and then your third band would be your new color. Then they won't touch.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's okay. So let's try the last one at 102 with just 40%. I just want to see what happens. That actually looks quite good, but I'm trying to stay away from...
So there is a point being made. Why aren't we using the elevation tool?
yeah, don't worry about it. I was just showing you what my instinct would be. Now,
Aha.
I'm not super trained yet with the elevation tool. So now we're going to see what happens if I actually use the elevation tool. And let's...
So there would be no elevation on the ground.
Oh, right. That's the one weird thing that we're going to fix with the patch next week is you actually have to turn on terrain shadow to actually see something when you're doing it, and probably 30% wasn't enough. Are you doing something? I'm not sure. Oh, it's frozen at the moment.
That's the joy of doing these live.
That's the joy of doing these live. Let's give him some time. It's calculating.
All right, we'll give it some time. So we've got some names that have come through. Gilfar Tightown, or Titan, Grass Canyon. There were some other ones that came through. Dunnafall, which I think is very amusing. Dunnafall into this river. Clifton Hill, Coleridge. Great if they are bringing coal down the river to the little harbour, or just straight up Clifton. Another suggestion was King Richardsburg, made by Richard himself. And if it is a king, then, well, if the king gets to suggest something, we generally put it into action. So we've got some names there which are quite cool. Oh, yes, time for a new challenge. You now have to build in a puzzle, according to chat.
Oh yeah, let's quickly do that. So the problem with this city is that the architect behind it was just absolutely insane.
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
So he actually decided that if he wants to, let me just quickly check with my bridges. I think 25 is a nice one. So he actually decided that if you want to navigate that city, you have all those weird bridges that
Shouldn't
somehow
connect. Shouldn't those bridges be bigger, the ones that are higher up?
Yeah, they should.
When you are dismissed, I said, yeah.
I think that
is already a very interesting map. If my players were to see that, I think that's already really cool.
Okay, so but I was still shaping my terrain here. And we're going to continue that here. So I'm shaping it a bit to give it more like those darker edges at the corners, so that it is fairly obvious that this is
I wonder if, and this is a question that the only way to solve is just by trial and error. Would it have been easier to have done the elevation maps first and then traced the cliffs, or vice versa? We don't know.
Maybe. So I can show you. You've seen the swamp map that I did in the previous in the previews, and it was a mix of both because I discovered that I need to. It helps to have the terrain, but you're not like. I saw one sample somewhere here, right here. But you sometimes have to then adjust a bit to it. So it's a back and forth between the tools, anyways. Because here you can see it's now starting to form that ridge, and I might want to have my cliffs adjusted to that ridge because it looks weird now. It looks now that there is a kind of a hill over
down to yeah.
Okay, so let's do the same thing on the other side.
Well, the challenge you're going to face here is that your shadows are being cast by a light source from only one angle.
Exactly.
And the map is meant to be dipping inside.
Yes.
So there's a bit of a contradiction in terms of physics versus artistry that's going on here.
Yes, which also made me realize that I'm very much missing we had it in development, but then we've removed it for the publishing. We had just black and white textures. Like when I go to brushes, I can see that my black and my white is missing. So I can't quickly shape up my own just dark shadows in there, which is definitely going to be next week's patch. Will include them. Oh, no,
I do think that it is already looking good. Now, with all of this going on, should we add in the roads? When do you add in roads? Once you sort of finished with the geography, is that your usual point of entry?
Yes, once I am happy with the... Okay, so let me just go closer in here. I think there we need to insert a point and just adjust them a little bit so that we're closer to the... If I move it away, you can see there the terrain shadows. I'm just now trying to follow them. Okay. Yeah, but I can spend hours doing this. So we're not doing this right now. We
Welcome to the stream of Till spending hours moving single points.
Well, for those of you who have been with us since when did we launch? 2017, 2018. You know that I can get very obsessive about those things. Let's not do this. Let's do roads. So,
yes.
We have...
Now, the default for a road is 10, and the smallest that it will go is 5.
It's 5 at the moment, exactly.
So where do you start? Do you start at 10?
I start at 10 because the 10 was kind of decided as a good fit to the building sizes. And 5 would be a back alley. So I would leave the roads at what they are, although we can see with the bigger ones here, like this, I think this is a default bridge, and we will see that it perfectly works with the default bridge. But we scaled up those bridges, so we're going to have to adjust the sizes here. But we already know that for each layer, we're going to scale up the buildings a bit so that they look closer to the camera. Yes, I saw the question. Stone Stairs Paths is on the list. I personally, I've been playing around with the asset. I wasn't satisfied with it because I'm not an artist. So I was messing around with doing something myself for this. Once the style guide has been created, that is actually going to be handed over to an artist to create those things. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, we're going to fix that bridge. I just realized that this bridge needs to. Oh, what is happening? Oh, right. You should definitely not go to. What was it? Was it 20? I can't remember. Nope, that was a bigger one. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it like this and like this, so the bridge is not too far inland. We have two ways of creating roads. I am kind of jumping between which one do I prefer. The first one is we could just freehand the road, right?
Right.
I'm not sure why, but I personally, I don't like it. I prefer to have the, the straight roads where I can say, okay, so this road is going here, and from here it's going to be here. Now, when I look at the map, I'm asking myself, if I would be the city architect, where would the road be? Like, let's say it's a boulevard road, so one of the main arteries. Would you want to have it in the center of this cliff terrace so that you can have buildings on both sides? Would you want to have it like a pleasure walk that is alongside the cliff? Or probably more like a maintenance or merchant road that would use the cover of cliff sides against weather? I don't know. So I would be saying probably it's a bit of both. Like there's going to be this part of the road that just goes like this. And then there might be a second road that might go like this, following the cliff side. And we don't have any more. Oh, okay. So people are going to. This is going to be the poor people's district, because this is a terrible. If we don't have a second bridge down here, people will really hate it. But we said that the architect was a madman. So shame on you if you decided to buy property on this level.
It's interesting what you say about the straight roads. Those are not
straight.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that are put in place with regards to roads. So it is, I guess, an artistic choice.
I think it is, because I mean, I could do it, but I don't know why. I feel like it, for me, creating it takes away my agency. I don't know why. It's just, I think it's a personal choice.
Your hand runs away from your brain. It's like, no, I can't control it.
Exactly. So next thing is what I like to do to create believable road artery systems is, again, we have to pay attention to the building size. So this is like, if we have several buildings here, I think this might be a good how do you call it, property grid, right? Which means a road might make sense here, but if we're doing something like this, it doesn't make sense because we can't squeeze any more buildings in there. So we might do something like this, and then we go down to 5 and make a little kind of a smaller road that kind of arcs through there. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because what I next do is I think of where could be a town square. Where could be a place where people kind of come together? Because town squares, at least for me, they tend to be something probably around a well, or a market or whatever. But then they start to branch out from there. So they're going like this.
Developer Johnny's just asked, are we still doing the featured map thing? Well, yes, we've just featured maps from Johnny, as a matter of fact. But are we still doing the community highlights?
Community highlights.
This show.
So
but
it has become a bit more difficult because there is like there are a few very active people in the community who are posting maps, but we had them on several highlights already last year. So we're let's say we're pausing it a bit to see if new people come in so that it makes sense to do this. Again, we will always, especially with the new map packs coming out, we will always try to introduce artists who are playing with the recent map pack and show that. So there's going to be community maps that we show off, but it's not going to be just 5 picks from community members on a monthly basis. It's more like centered around the latest asset pack that has been released.
Till, I would be interested to see, because I can see you're getting into the minutiae now of designing your roads and things. Just off the top of your head, how would we make one of those roads wind up the side of the cliff? Because we can make it get bigger slowly.
Okay. That is something that I thought of that I probably should fix. So the thing is, we need to split the road, the cliff somehow. So what I would do is I would probably do here. I hope I remember. I think it's split. Yes, there you go. And can I do this still? I'm not sure. I have to redraw it, unfortunately. So,
suggestion from Damien, the DM, is to run themed contests again and then have a highlight from there.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. So we're going to now with pointy endings. We're going to do. Oh right, I need to be freehand curved. Why don't you get pointy? You should get more pointy at the end. I'm not sure. Oh, right. I know why. There you go. Okay, so let me just get my perspective straight. If that cliff is coming from here, I have to, where is it? I actually have to mirror it. There you go. Okay. So I can now say that this is where, if you see what I'm doing, where this road leads up. And then I'm going to do a second cliff that's going to be something like this. And we're going to adjust it. And I've realized that this cliff needs to be 80. Oh, wait. I completely forgot about things that we can do. Because I can, if I remember correctly, I should be able to scale that point up.
There you are.
There you are. That's fine. So now I can actually take that road and let's do this one, a winded one. So, oh, right, my bad. So I can actually do something like this, and then there might be a second road coming from here. Okay.
Right, now it needs to increase in size.
Exactly. Now those roads should actually be already bigger. So let's make this. Let's see what happens if I make it 12. We don't want to have it 2. Yeah, that's better. Okay. And we can do the road here. So there's the bridge. And we can say going to be something like this. See, now I'm freehand. And I don't like it.
All right.
Then there's a road going here, ending into this, and so on and so forth. How are we in time? Oh, we have 50 minutes left. Okay.
15 minutes to add in some buildings.
Yeah, let's speed this up. Let's just do quickly something like this. Okay. Okay, so of course now we need to add in buildings, and I am going to pick. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's start with those down here. Maybe they are a bit smaller. Maybe we bring them down to 80%. That looks better, I think. And let's say that down here are mainly like stone, rock, and probably let's do a few of them. Right, so it's a bit of a poorer district, so we're going to do that. But I'm not going to place them click by click. I'm going to use the brush for it. And when I use the brush, I have this option which says place them roadside, which is very nice, because when I do this, the offs let's make them very dense. Let's see how that works. Oh, right. That's a bug that we have. There's no rotation allowed in there at the moment. So I can now place them, and they will all happen to be on roadside. But as you can see, they're not placing here because they're being blocked by the cliff path. So they're ignoring cliff paths. But we have some buildings here that need to be cleaned up. So let's do some buildings here. So the next thing is we're going to change our setup a little bit, and we're going to say it's more like of those buildings, and probably let's mix in some of the elven green ones. And they're going to be at 100%, and they're going to be up here. So I'm going to place them here. And that's pretty harsh, isn't it? What do you think? Is that too much of a difference in building sizes?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. If I look at the scaling of the bridges, I think what you really need to do is just test your top layer as well, because what would you make that, 120%?
Yes, let's do not roadside buildings here, and let's say they are 120%. And that would be our buildings on the top layer, and then we could even do something really big up here.
You really need to. I don't think that's terrible. I think you need some exaggeration to help in terms of the height.
So what I've learned is I like to mix between roadside buildings, and then if we go back to our flat roof houses, turn off, oh no, the cast shadow is fine. Turn off the roadside, so deactivate it. Now I have a density and an overlap slider. I'm going to reduce the density a bit, but I'm going to bring up the overlap slider. So they should still be at 80%. Maybe we make them a bit bigger. Let's make them 90%. And now I'm going to cluster. Oh, I forgot some very important thing, because I have to add the randomize now here. And now when I do this, of course, we're going to clean up here. They're going to cluster those buildings just between those. So they're a bit bigger on the inside, which I think is believable, because if you have a bigger building, you want to look over the other buildings. You don't want to have the roadside buildings bigger than the buildings that come after that. Otherwise, they would all just look at concrete. And now I have those, which means that I can now use them as kind of inspiration of where those mid-between paths could go. I could say, okay, wait, they're going here, and there might be one that's kind of winding through here. And then we have one that goes here. There's a little square here. We can put well in there. Then here, it might go here, and this is going under the bridge. So there's going to be one that's connecting here. And the same I can do here if I like to. And that's an interesting one. Let's see if I could go through here, maybe here. And that creates kind of a very, to my...
It is a randomized chaos to a very large degree, and I think it works very well.
Yes, exactly. It works. Like when you zoom out and you look at it, it suddenly becomes more natural because it looks organic. It looks like people have kind of carved the ways there. Now, I really don't like those buildings. I'm going to get rid of them now. And that one we might rotate and move a little bit. Let's see. Let's pick that one. Copy, paste here, rotate. Okay. Now we haven't, just for the sake of this, I mean, there are obviously a few things missing. First one is, we're going to fix that right now, is there needs to be some plant life in there. So we're going to use again our brush here. We might reduce the density because we don't want to have forests, but we might increase the overlap. And when I do this now, you can see that there are now trees with some overlap mixed into it. And of course, let's move that one here. Let's keep that one, move it here. There's a small one. We don't want to have them on the bridge.
And they're still at 80%, right?
Yes, they are with a bit of randomization. At 80%. Okay. Let's increase your set index. Okay. So now I have a bit of this in here. If I want to get even more complex, I could now go in and say, okay, let's do the same thing with clutter. Yeah. Let's do this. And let's see what oh, Jesus Christ. So the density has to be
It's a barrel city.
Density has to be really low. But now we can kind of add a bit of clutter in here. That again,
it's a really handy tool to just throw in bits and bobs here and there.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what we're actually lacking in aesthetics here right now is we should turn on, if I ever find it, prop shadows, because that instantly gives the whole thing much more depth perspective, right? But we have to, with that being active, we now have to actually play around a little bit with our assets. I have noticed that this bridge is, people have ignored this bridge, they just build upon it. Well, maybe that's even a good idea. Why is that?
I know a house on bridges may seem like a good idea, but it's really a bad idea to put your entire livelihood on a bridge, as history has told us many, many times.
Many times, I know. Still, though, I think one of the coolest concepts of fantasy, clustered, multiplex things are those bridges with slums on it or something like that. Okay, so now we have that. And the next thing is, of course, I think this is still, like, if we're thinking of city, this might need a bit more texturing. So I'm going with the gray ground here. It's going to be 103. And we can, if it works, I hope it works. Yes, it does. Oh, of course, stupid me, opacity. And we can put that a little bit beneath it. And now we have a bit more like, a bit more of city feeling here. And I can, of course, if I want to say, no, there needs to be grass here, I can remove that cluster here. Then I just have to.
I found it so peaceful making maps, city maps particularly, because of the conversation that you're having in your own head and with us at the moment. I was doing exactly the same thing. You're like, well, I'll put this here, or let's do this here. So now you're adding something to the water.
Yes, I'm just experimenting. I'm just playing around a little bit with it. Again, I'm missing my black at the moment. I would love to have my black back because I think I can. Let me see if I can color adjust it though.
Not that layer.
Not that layer, apparently. Was it? Did I do it on layer 1? I can't remember. Layer 2. So that one is going to be... Yes, I can. I can have a black one. More or less. Okay, that's fine. Because now I'm going to reduce opacity.
Now, those color adjustments, those are also going to come under review. Is that right?
Yes, they're coming under review. They are... They felt clever when we did it. Where are you going? Where are you hiding? Set index 105. I have no idea. I'm just... Okay. It is somewhere, but it is vanishing for some reason. I don't know why. Let's do a different thing. Let's try the same thing with water shading. Much better. And increase the intensity for it and the depth. And let's make this more like bluish.
What a wonderful hope that a river flowing through the slums would be blue.
You're true. Yeah, that probably we need to go into something like dirt yellow. And activate the tint and make it much. Okay.
Right. Well, I don't think that that's a particularly bad start, considering the depth is already starting to feel as if it's really there. And I think those houses, the gradation is not too extreme, personally. So yeah, I think it's looking really good to begin with.
Yeah, I think so too. We can now like, let's see, we can make it a bit darker here and add some
Like they'd have street lamps that close in the slums. But yes.
Yeah, you're right. Probably not. Also, I think it would look better if they were, I think that's here. If they were occluding, so it's more like street lamps. It's not over the buildings, but more shining out of the windows. So that one is a cool one, I think. Directional lighting we can turn on. Give it more like, let's make it something like... can't decide.
'Tis the apocalypse, my lord. The sky is green. Lovely. I have to say, it's one of my favorite features is playing around with the direction. I think works really well and does give us another sense of that depth. It really works really well.
Yeah, although the color is weird. Maybe we stick with some very light. This one. Okay. And turn back up the light. And let's turn those off for now because it's not night mode.
The highest bridge would be terrifying, says Lord God. I absolutely agree. Folks, we have got some cloud cover with a chance of 20% rain on the upper terraces and guaranteed chance of yellow rain on the lower terraces. This is due to the lack of plumbing on the upper terraces. Before Till goes completely weather mad.
Well, I'm turning it off again because the last thing I want to check just for myself is how does it look if we turn it into the outline mode. Let's increase the threshold a bit. And the intensity, and
we're going to need a way of the rivers being colored gray or something.
Yeah. We already know that. We know that water bodies need to have some kind of indicator in here.
Yeah.
So that it looks better. But I think this is still like if
still works. Changing the scale and the size makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. We've come to the end of this month's Mapping It Out. And thank you for all of your suggestions, your comments, your ideas, your thoughts, as usual, all being taken down, taken into consideration. Remember to post and keep active on the Discord, and of course, sharing your maps. As Till said, a lot of you are already doing that, so a big thank you to you for doing that. We will return again at the end of March, where we will have new asset pack to play with, something fishy apparently, and Till may have finished working on the lower level of the city by then, since he is literally going in and manually changing each crate. I tell you, some people, my goodness. Nonetheless, we'll be back next month, and hopefully all of you will join us for that. Till, any last words from you?
No, thank you all for attending. I hope, again, if you have feedback on the stream format, on if you liked it on YouTube, I very much enjoyed the poll that we did. So I'm very happy with returning to YouTube for next month. But if you want to leave us comments on that, of course, leave them comments here in YouTube, or come and join us on Discord at dungeonfog.com/Discord. Chat away with us, ask questions about the city map maker, the world map maker, the battle map maker. Get in touch with our community, get in touch with our developers. I say thank you very much. As always, thank you, Guy, for being the moderator of this show, helping me to keep the chaos in control. Yeah, and with that said, everybody, thank you as always, and happy map making.
I was going to try and do it while you were trying to find the button.
Yeah.
Just did it.
Guys, have a good one. Bye.
Goodbye.